Home, pasta with sauce from a jar, were the best meals he had ever had. She laughed and said she was glad it only took him 60-some years to figure that out. He died at 73. Judith was beside him. In his last interview, a young journalist asked about the Keanu Reeves incident. "Worst day of my life," Malcolm said. "And the best. The worst because I showed everyone who I had become. The best because someone showed me it was not too late to become someone else." Any regrets? Thousands. Every person I made feel unwelcome. I cannot undo that. But I spent 12 years trying. Whether I succeeded, that is not for me to say. But I tried. He paused. You want to know what I think about most? Community night. People who had never been inside a place like mine walking through the door and feeling welcome. The look on their faces, not the Rolex, not the wine cellar. That is what made Hard Groves worth something. I have told a lot of stories on this channel, but I keep coming back to this one. Not because of the famous name, because it sits with me in a way I cannot shake. Keanu had every right to burn that place to the ground. Reputationally speaking, he did not. Malcolm had every reason to double down, protect his ego, blame everyone else. He did not eventually. And Elliot, a 24-year-old kid caught in someone else's mess, watched the whole thing and carried it with him for the rest of his life. I do not know what I would have done in Keanu's position. I would like to think I would have handled it the same way, but honestly, I am not sure. Most of us are not sure. And maybe that is the point. This story is fictional, inspired by Keanu Reeves' well-known reputation for kindness. But the situation it describes happens more often than any of us want to admit. If this one stayed with you, drop a comment and tell me what you took from it. Share it with someone who might need to hear it and subscribe because the next story is coming soon. See you in the next. A waiter walks up to Keanu Reeves in one of the most exclusive restaurants in Pasadena and tells him he is not welcome. Not because of anything he said, not because of anything he did, because of what he was wearing. Faded jeans, a wrinkled t-shirt, motorcycle boots. The owner took one look and decided that one of the most beloved men in America did not deserve to sit in his dining room. Keanu stood up, smiled, and walked out without a word. 10 minutes later, he came back. And what happened next left the entire restaurant in stunned silence. There is a restaurant in Pasadena, California called Hargroves. You have probably never heard of it, and that is by design. Tucked along a quiet tree-in street about 15 minutes from Old Town, Hargroves never advertised. It never needed to. White linen tablecloths pressed without a crease. Candle light in hand-blown glass holders. Soft jazz from hidden speakers. Silverware that felt heavy in your hand. The kind of weight that quietly reminded you where you were. The average dinner bill ran somewhere around $250 per person before wine, and nobody blinked at it. On a Thursday afternoon in September, during the gentle lull between lunch and the early dinner reservations, a man walked through the front door with 3 friends. Faded jeans, the kind washed so many times the blue had turned gray at the knees. A plain black t-shirt untucked, slightly wrinkled, old motorcycle boots that had seen a few thousand m of highway. No watch, no UI, nothing that would signal wealth or status or fame. This man was Keanu Reeves. His friends were dressed the same way, casual, comfortable. They walked in without a reservation, sat down at a quiet table near the window. Keanu leaned back, looked out at the afternoon light coming through the trees. One of his friends said something funny. Keanu laughed, that genuine head-tilted back laugh anyone who has seen an interview with him would recognize right away. It was supposed to be a simple lunch for friends. Some good food, maybe a glass of wine. The kind of afternoon that disappears from memory almost as soon as it ends. Except something remarkable was about to happen. A waiter approached the table. Young guy, maybe 24, with neatly combed hair and a pressed white shirt. His name tag read Elliot. He was holding 4 leather-bound menus against his chest. But he was not handing them out. Just standing there shifting his weight, jaw tight, eyes darting between Keanu and the back of the restaurant. Keanu noticed. He had spent decades reading people. "Hey, how are you doing?" Keanu said, warm and direct the way he says it to everyone. "We are starving. Could we get some menus and maybe some water to start?" Elliot swallowed. "I am sorry, sir," he said, and his voice cracked on the word sorry. "We are not able to serve you today." The table went quiet. "Not able to serve us?" Hanu repeated. Not angry, curious. "How come?" "The owner asked me to let you know that your party does not meet the standards of this establishment. He said you are not suited for this restaurant." "I am very sorry." Silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums. One of Keanu's friends leaned forward. "Not suited? We are trying to order lunch. Not apply for membership at a country club." Keanu raised his hand gently. He looked at Elliot, really looked at him, and saw what was actually happening. This kid had not made this decision. He had been sent to deliver a message he did not believe in. And the shame of it was written across his face. "It is okay," Keanu said quietly. "It is not your fault. You are doing your job." He pushed his chair back, stood up, straightened his t-shirt, which did not look any less wrinkled afterward. "Come on, guys. Let us go." "You are kidding. You are just going to walk out." "We were asked to leave. So, we are leaving." No scene, no raised voice. He held the door for his friends, stepped into the September sunlight, and let the door close softly behind him. In the parking lot, his friends were not as calm. "That guy just kicked you out of his restaurant, Keanu Reeves. Because of what you are wearing. Are you seriously going to let that slide?" Keanu leaned against his car and looked at the front door of Hardgrove's. For a few seconds, he said nothing. Then he smiled. Not an angry smile. The kind of smile a man gives when he has just made a decision and is completely at peace with it. "I am not letting anything slide. I am just going to handle this the right way. Give me 10 minutes. He pulled out his phone and made one call. Spoke for less than 2 minutes. His back turned so his friends could not hear. What was that about? Just invited someone to lunch, Keanu said. His friends knew that look. Quiet, certain, patient. When Keanu smiled like that, something was about to happen that nobody saw coming. To understand what happened next, you need to know who Malcolm Driscoll really was and why a man in faded jeans made him so afraid. Malcolm was 52. Silver hair combed back with precision. Tailored shirts monogrammed at the cuff. Italian leather shoes he polished every Sunday evening. A Rolex Submariner on his left wrist, always visible when he shook someone's hand. Everything about Malcolm was designed to say one thing. I have made it. But that had not always been the story. He grew up above a laundromat in USA, 30 miles east of Pasadena. His father drove a bread delivery truck. His mother cleaned houses for families in neighborhoods she could never afford to live in. Malcolm wore hand-me-downs, ate government-assisted lunch, and spent summers bussing tables at a diner off Route 66. He knew what it felt like to walk into a nice store and have the clerk watch him like he was going to steal something. He knew the look a hostess gives when you pull up in a rusted pickup. That silent look that says you do not belong here without using a single word. He swore he would never feel that way again. He started Hardgrove's at 34, a narrow storefront, 8 tables, paper napkins. Over 18 years he transformed it into one of the most respected restaurants in Pasadena. Hired a French-trained chef, installed a wine cellar, cultivated a clientele of judges, television executives, city council members. Horowitz became his proof. Proof that the kid who ate government lunch now ran a restaurant where the powerful came to be seen. But somewhere along the way, something curdled inside him. He did not just want to be wealthy. He wanted to be separate from the world he came from. And the way he maintained that separation was by controlling who sat in his dining room. There was no sign about a dress code. But his staff understood. If someone walked in wearing shorts, sneakers, a wrinkled t-shirt, they were turned away. Politely, always politely, a young couple in flip-flops. A family of 5 with ketchup stains. An elderly man in a worn flannel who came in alone on his birthday, hoping for a quiet meal. Malcolm turned them all away. He told himself he was protecting the brand. He never once considered that he was doing to others exactly what had been done to him. But the reason he turned Keanu Reeves away went deeper than a dress code. For years deeper, her name was Karen Ashford. Late 50s, sharp-eyed, soft-spoken, and one of the most influential investors in the Southern California restaurant world. Getting her backing was a golden ticket. Money, credibility, connections that could turn a single restaurant into a brand. Malcolm had spent nearly a year courting her investment. 3 new locations, Pasadena, Santa Monica, Newport Beach. Business plans, financial projections, personally cooked dinners. Karen told him she was seriously considering it. 18 years of work about to pay off. Then came the charity gala, a fundraiser for homeless children in Los Angeles. Karen attended. Keanu Reeves was the guest of honor, but he did not give a speech from a podium. He sat down at a table with the kids, just sat with them, asked about school, about their favorite movies, told them about his own years when money was tight and the future felt uncertain. He stayed 3 hours, remembered their names. When a girl maybe 7 years old asked if he was really a movie star, Keanu smiled and said, "Some days, other days, I am just a guy trying to figure things out." "Same as you." Karen watched from across the room. She later told people that most celebrities treated these events like photo opportunities. Keanu treated it like it mattered. She redirected her investment entirely. Instead of a luxury restaurant chain, she put her money into expanding the nonprofit's community meal program kitchens across Los Angeles, providing free meals to homeless families, a program Keanu had supported for years. She called Malcolm on a Tuesday evening. He remembered it was a Tuesday because he had just finished polishing his shoes. She was gracious. She admired what he had built, but she had decided to go a different direction. Malcolm hung up the phone and sat in his office for 45 minutes without moving. Nearly a year of work gone. Not because he had failed, because a man in a t-shirt sat with some kids and was genuine. And that genuineness moved a woman worth millions to change the direction of her money. He blamed Keanu. It made no sense. Keanu had never heard of Malcolm Driscoll. Had no idea Karen was considering a restaurant investment. Had gone to that gala because he cared about homeless kids. That was it. But over 4 years, Malcolm nursed the resentment. Every headline about Keanu's humility tightened his jaw. He told himself it was all an act. Because if it was real, if a man in old boots was genuinely that good, then everything Malcolm had built was not enough. So when Keanu walked through the door that Thursday wearing exactly the kind of clothes Malcolm had spent his life running from for years of buried resentment hit him all at once. He called Elliot over table by the window for guys' jeans and t-shirts. "Tell them we cannot serve them. Be polite but make sure they leave." "Sir, I think one of them might be. I do not care who he is. My restaurant. My rules. Go." Elliot went because he was 24 and afraid of losing his job and did not yet know that some orders should not be followed. The phone call Keanu made was to Garrett Hollins, a veteran film producer, his closest friend for over 20 years and one of Malcolm Driscoll's most valuable clients for 6 years. Garrett hosted business dinners at Groves twice a month and had referred dozens of high-profile guests. "Hey, I am at Groves. Got turned away because of how I am dressed. I am going back in. You feel like joining us for lunch?" 2C pause. "I will be there in 10 minutes. He arrived in 8. Dark blue Mercedes, charcoal suit. The kind of man Malcolm would fall over himself to welcome. "You got kicked out of a restaurant," Garrett said, half smiling. "You, Keanu Reeves, for wearing a t-shirt. That is what happened. Well, let us go have lunch." 5 of them walked in. Garrett in the suit. Keanu in the jeans. The dining room was fuller now. 35, maybe 40 people. Elliot saw them first. The color drained from his face. Malcolm was behind the reception podium. He started his greeting without looking up. "Good afternoon. Welcome to Groves. Do you have a reserve?" He looked up, saw Garrett first. His mouth formed a warm welcome. Then he saw who was standing beside Garrett. Same jeans, same t-shirt, same man he had thrown out an hour ago. His expression froze. "Malcolm," Garrett said. "Table for 5, please." You could see the calculation behind Malcolm's face. If he seated them, he admitted he was wrong. If he refused, he lost. Garrett Holland. But pride has a way of overriding common sense. "Mr. Hollins, I am delighted to have you, but I already explained to Mr. Reeves that we have standards regarding attire. That has not changed." He said it just loud enough. In a restaurant of soft murmurs, even a moderate voice carries. The silence spread outward like ripples. Table by table. Garrett stared at him with genuine disbelief. "You are refusing to serve Keanu Reeves in front of me for the second time because of what he is wearing. My standards apply equally, Mr. Hollins." "Equally," Garrett repeated. Then he turned to the room. "I want everyone here to know that I have been bringing clients to this restaurant for 6 years, and today the owner refused to serve my friend twice because he is wearing jeans and a t-shirt." The room stirred. Phones appeared. "Is that Keanu Reeves?" "Twice." A woman in her mid-60s set down her wine glass. "That man has donated more money to children's hospitals than most people in this room will earn in their lifetimes. And you are telling him he cannot eat here because of his clothes." A man 2 tables over stood up. "If Keanu Reeves is not welcome here, then neither am I, check please." Sweat appeared on Malcolm's forehead. His knuckles went white on the podium. He looked around and saw something he had never seen directed at him in his own restaurant. Not anger, the quiet disappointment of people who had expected better. Through all of this, Keanu had not raised his voice, had not pointed a finger. He had walked in, asked for a table, and let Malcolm make his own choices. Now he spoke quietly. "Mr. Driscoll, I respect that this is your restaurant. But if I were not Keanu Reeves, if I were just a regular person who walked in wearing jeans, would you turn that person away too?" Malcolm opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "Because I think you would," Keanu said gently. "And I think you know that is not right." 40 people watching a man in a wrinkled t-shirt speak with more composure than the man who owned the building. Malcolm could not respond. He turned, walked through the kitchen doorway, and disappeared. Garrett looked at Keanu. "What do you want to do?" Keanu pulled out a chair, and sat down. "Give him a few minutes." "You want to wait?" "I did not come back to embarrass him. He is having a hard time. Anybody can see that." They sat for about 10 minutes. Hanu drank water, talked with his friends unhurried, giving Malcolm space. Then he stood up. "Where are you going?" "To talk to him." Just the two of us. He walked through the kitchen door down a narrow hallway that smelled like garlic and dish soap to a small office. At the end, Malcolm was sitting behind a cluttered desk, head in his hands. A framed photograph on the desk showed him and his wife Judith standing in front of the original storefront. 8 tables, paper napkins, both of them smiling. Keanu knocked on the door frame. 2 soft taps. Malcolm looked up, eyes red. Something closer to exhaustion than fear. The look of a man who has been carrying something too heavy for too long. "Can I sit down?" No answer. Keanu found a metal folding chair. Set it across from Malcolm. 4 feet apart. The sounds of the kitchen filtered through the walls. Pans, orders, the hiss of something on a grill. "I did not come back here to ruin your day." Keanu said what happened out there was not about a dress code. "We both know that. So what is this really about?" And Malcolm told him about Karen Ashford, the year of courtship, the phone call that ended it. The man in a t-shirt who sat with kids at a gala and without knowing it changed the direction of millions of dollars. About 4 years of blaming someone who did not know he existed. Keanu listened, did not interrupt, just listened. Then Malcolm said the harder thing. "You are not the first person I have turned away. Dozens of people, anybody who did not look the part. I told myself I was protecting this place. But I was protecting my own ego." He paused. "I grew up with nothing. I know what it is like to walk into a room and have people decide you do not belong. I built this restaurant so I would never feel that way again. And somewhere along the way, I started doing the same thing to others. Every person I turned away was another brick in a wall between me and where I came from." A timer went off in the kitchen. "The truth is," Malcolm said, and his voice cracked. "I was not angry at you. I was afraid of you. You have everything and you walk around in old boots and you do not care what anyone thinks. People love you for it because you are real. I have spent my whole life pretending and nobody has ever loved me for that." Keanu let the silence sit. "Malcolm, I know what it feels like to think you were not enough. There were years when I lost people I loved. When my career felt like it might not survive. When I sat in empty rooms wondering if any of it meant anything. That fear that no matter what you build, it will never be enough. I understand it." He paused. "But I have to ask you something. That elderly man in the flannel shirt, the one who came in on his birthday, how do you think he felt when he walked back out that door? What do you think that did to his day, his year?" Malcolm closed his eyes. "You built something real here," Keanu said. 18 years. I have heard people say this is one of the best restaurants in Pasadena. But what is a restaurant, Malcolm? Really? What is it supposed to be?" Malcolm opened his eyes, looked at the photograph of himself and Judith in front of the original 8-table storefront. Looked at it for a long time. "A place where people feel welcome," Malcolm said quietly, almost to himself. "Yeah," Keanu said. "That is what I think too." He stood, put his hand on Malcolm's shoulder, steady grounding. "I am not asking for free meals. I am not asking you to kneel. Just walk back out there and be the guy in that photograph. The one who opened a restaurant because he wanted to feed people. Start today." He gave Malcolm's shoulder a pat and lunch. "I am paying full price. I do not need anyone to owe me anything." He walked back to the dining room, sat down, ordered. "What did you say to him?" Garrett asked. "The truth. That is usually enough." About 10 minutes later, the kitchen door opened. Malcolm stepped out, face washed, hair combed, though softer than before. "I still read, hands not entirely steady, but standing straight." The dining room went quiet again, different this time. Expectant, Malcolm reached the table, took a breath. Mr. Reeves, I owe you an apology. Not because you are famous, not because of who you know, because what I did was wrong. I judged you by what you were wearing and turned you away twice. There is no excuse. He paused. I have spent a long time believing the value of this place depended on keeping certain people out. I was wrong. What you said back there, I heard it. Every word. Keanu looked up and smiled. The real one. Warm, unhurried, slightly crooked. That is all I needed to hear. Someone started clapping. Then another quiet, genuine applause. Elliot wiped his eyes with the back of his hand and pretended he had not. Malcolm went into the kitchen and personally cooked the meal. Not because he had to, because cooking was the only language he knew for saying things he could not put into words. The bread came warm. The olive oil tasted like it had been made by someone who cared about the person eating it. Keanu paid in full, left Elliot a tip that was by any standard far more generous than required. Elliot looked at the receipt. Thank you, he said. Keanu looked at him. You were put in a bad position by someone else's decision, and you handled it with grace. Remember that. They left as the September sun set behind the trees, casting everything in golden light. Keanu held the door for his friends, same as on the way in. That night, a 61-year-old retired school teacher named Dorothy, who had been sitting 3 tables away, wrote a Facebook post about what she witnessed. She was not trying to go viral. She was trying to make sense of something she saw. 40 shares by morning, then 400, then 4,000. A local reporter, the Los Angeles Times, a television segment. Within a week, the story had crossed the country. The weeks that followed nearly broke Malcolm Driscoll. Revenue dropped by 30%. Regulars disappeared. Nobody argued. They just stopped coming, which was worse because silence gives you nothing to push back against. 3 weeks after the incident, Malcolm sat at his kitchen table in the dark. Judith found him there. I think we should sell, he said. Start over somewhere nobody knows. She sat across from him, quiet for a long time. Running is easy, Judith said. Changing is hard. That man gave you a chance most people never get. Do not waste it. He did not sell. He did not run. He changed. He removed the dress code, gathered his staff, and told them. Every person who walks through the door gets seated. No exceptions. Elliot said later it was the first time he had ever seen Malcolm speak without performing. Then he started community night. First Saturday of every month, Hardroves opened to families who could not afford to eat there. Shelters, community centers, church groups, not a simplified menu, the full menu. Same chefs, same white plates, same cloth napkins. If the point was to make people feel welcome, then they had to be welcomed completely. The first one was awkward. Malcolm wanted to retreat to his office, but he stayed. Pulled out chairs, poured water. By the 3rd month, children ran to their favorite tables. Staff volunteered for Saturday shifts. And a young man in a hoodie who had barely made eye contact the first time, came back every month, and eventually told Malcolm over a plate of risotto. That community night was the only evening all month when he felt like a real person. That sentence stayed with Malcolm longer than any business review ever had. He partnered with re-entry programs, hired people from underserved neighborhoods, hung a small wooden sign by the front door. Everyone is welcome here. Every person has value. And below that, inspired by a lesson I learned the hard way, the coverage that followed brought new people in. Families who had assumed Hardgroves was not for people like them and now saw a sign that said otherwise. Revenue recovered, then surpassed what it had been, not because the restaurant became famous for turning away Keanu Reeves, because it became known for what it did after. Elliot left 2 years later, opened a small restaurant in San Diego, 12 tables. One rule he told every new hire on day one: every customer gets treated the same. Bentley or bus. Years later, in a magazine interview, he said, "That day changed my life." Keanu could have destroyed Malcolm with one phone call. Instead, he sat in a back office and had a conversation. Listened, gave Malcolm a chance to fix it. That is power. Not the kind that tears down, the kind that builds. He smiled. The tip Keanu left me. I still have the receipt. Framed it. Not for the amount, because I was the guy who told him he was not welcome, and instead of punishing me, he treated me with respect. That receipt reminds me every day that how you treat people who have no power over you is the truest measure of who you are. Keanu never discussed the incident publicly. When a reporter asked years later, he said, "That story is not about me. I was a guy in jeans who wanted lunch. The real story is about the people who get treated that way every day and do not have anyone to call. If it makes one person reconsider how they treat a stranger, then it mattered." Karen Ashford visited Hardgroves on a community night 3 years later, sat next to a family of 5, watched Malcolm bring bread to the table. She wrote, "I have invested in many businesses, but I have never seen a return like the one from a single afternoon at Hardgroves. Not financial human. Malcolm Driscoll is not the man I turned down. He is better." And sometimes that is the most remarkable thing a person can become. Malcolm ran Hardgroves for 12 more years. Kept community night going every month, even during renovations when he set up folding tables in the parking lot. He mentored young cooks, spoke at a high school once a year about second chances. He retired at 68, passing the restaurant to Carmen, a young woman who had started as a dishwasher through the re-entry program and worked her way to general manager. The wooden sign stayed. Carmen made sure of that. Malcolm moved to a quieter part of Pasadena with Judith. They cooked together most evenings. Simple food, the kind he grew up eating in Isusa, the kind he had spent decades pretending was beneath him. He told Judith once that those dinners at